My name is Gina Harasti, and I'm indeed teaching Intermedia 2 this year. I'm a filmmaker and artist based in Montreal, and this is my second time teaching.
What was your first time teaching?
I taught Filmmaking 101
Here in Montreal?
2 years ago at Concordia. Yeah, Malhoppinen School of Cinema. I've always liked playing games, but I think I'm part of a generation who, whose parents thought playing games or making games is not a thing. It's a waste of time. So I never thought of doing anything with games as an adult. And but I've always been interested in exploring different ways of storytelling, alternative or untraditional ways of storytelling. So one of the reasons why I studied art first was that I was more interested in working with moving image from an alternative point of view. And then going into film was just me expanding that like storytelling toolkit I have. And then when I came to Montreal, I found out that there's a game lab, a game research center, and there are people here who consider game as a medium, a medium like painting or photography or film. And I thought, oh my God, I completely agree with that. Games are not really considered part of the culture. And I mean the grand culture of art and etc. And it was just really refreshing to have that point of view, to have that like access of creating a game and calling it a piece of work and a piece of art instead of just some kind of shallow medium that is for killing things. And I basically I got very interested in like maybe I should make games instead of films, or I had this like crisis right when I graduated, of course. And I started hanging out at TAG, and I decided to learn Unity, which is one of the main like game development tools nowadays, very popular. And I learned Unity in a few months, and became friends with all the people around the lab, and it turned out I'm a really good fit to work there. And I first I was an RA, and then I got like hired to run their summer program, and then I became the main coordinator and then the creative director. And although I don't consider myself a game developer, I have made a bunch of games. I usually say I've made games accidentally. Sometimes I made what I consider an interactive art piece, but then it's really a game. And if I look back at my art career, I have made so many projects that I consider like multi-channel interactive video art, but they were really games.
Now when you look back, it's like,
yeah,
that's really what it was.
So it's really interesting to think about those overlaps within media, and to have like interactive film emerging nowadays, and to look at it from a perspective of understanding games, and go like, this has so much to learn from games, interactive cinema, for example, and I feel very privileged that I have the understanding of both media, games and film, and I hope that benefits me. I think it's really all about telling stories and conveying emotions and thoughts and messages of the creator. So if you think about not the big AAA games by Ubisoft or these big companies, but really the games that indie studios make, that people make at home, I feel those are really the same way of artist's or creative process as like a filmmaker's process. I think Montreal is an extremely special city in the game map of the world. First of all, it has all the big companies, so there's a lot of perspective for people who want to do work like that, and it's really good money for a lot of people, and of course, like many of those games are very entertaining and fun. So. And it also, another fact of having these big companies is that there is such a huge indie scene that develops around them. So many people who quit their jobs or just study game making but don't want to go into those big company jobs. They end up making smaller games in smaller studios. They end up making alternative games, and that kind of knowledge that accumulates around an industry trickles down to the art scene. When I say art scene, I mean like alternative and indie game scene. Alternative games are usually games that don't fit into those labels that we are used to. So often they're not played with the controllers we're familiar with. They're not played maybe in your apartment, but outside with other people or by holding, weird objects instead of controllers. They often include games for change, which are games that address or encourage for social change.